the relationship between the observer and the observed, one who is conducting the study and what is being studied. Number 3, every researcher has to take care of the values which come in research. Some of these values are universal human values. The other values are research values. Number 4, every researcher has to understand the academic language and use it in which those ideas are communicated. And number 5, every researcher has to know the methods which are going to be used for data collection. Come to the first one. The nature of reality. Is the reality right out there? And therefore it can be observed, it can be studied, it can be studied with detachment, it can be studied with dispassion, or is the reality in the mind of the person? Is reality a product of the interactions among human beings? Is reality an outcome of several series of discussions? I am here having in mind the famous book by William Mazzarella, which is on how advertisements are produced. And this is a study of the production of advertisement and the impact of globalization of the production of advertisement in the city of Bombay. And the work was done looking at what interactions take place between people before the advertisement comes out. Or the study by Anna Markham on Bollywood songs, that how these songs are composed, how they are rendered into musical composition. So how this is done, where is the reality and what is to be studied? The positivist would say the reality is right out there. The interpretivist would say the reality is in the minds of people. Reality is something which is being constructed. So for example, this class which we are having right now, we are constructing the reality. Okay? Something which is a product of human interaction. These questions are often called ontological questions because they are concerned with what is the reality and what is that we are going to study. Number 2, the relationship between the observer and the observed. Can the observer fully understand the observed? Can I fully understand what is being studied? What are my subjective dispositions? Can I be objective in my assessment and study? Is the object of observation modified by my presence? Where the observer affects the observed. What is the best way of undertaking or understanding the reality? Should one understand it from outside or should one understand it from inside? There's a very famous statement from Henry Bergson, and the statement is often quoted in all the texts dealing with qualitative research. And the statement goes like this. I think it's a very profound statement, a statement of 1903 in a book which was devoted to the ethical issue. There are 2 ways of knowing a phenomenon. 2 ways of knowing a phenomenon. One is by going around it, the other is by going inside it. One is by going around it, and the other is by going inside it. two levels of understanding which come out of this. The first is the external understanding, the other is internal understanding. Understanding it from their point of view, understanding it from outside. So, the difference between two of them, and I am reminded of another statement from Gunnar Riddle. There are two ways of knowing a toothache. One as a sick, the other as a doctor. So, if you have toothache or morbid, you know what it is. And the doctor is understanding it in terms of two paradigms. Number one, whether this toothache is real and it is not feigned, it is not contrived, you are not making it up, but something which is genuine. And number two, the paradigm of empathy. When I have toothache, this is the feeling I have. It's the same feeling which the person is having. So, understanding from inside and understanding from outside, which is very important. Soon I am going to tell you that survey research is largely understanding the phenomenon from outside, whereas fieldwork research is one where you go inside the system and try to understand it from inside. Inside, outside, rather than outside, inside. So, the relation between the observer and the observed, and is concerned with the issues of subjectivity, the issues of objectivity. Number three, the values which come. And these values are universal human values. I forgot to tell you that the setting is often called epistemological questions. Epistemology. Ontological questions, epistemological questions. Questions dealing with knowledge, questions dealing with the veracity of knowledge. How correct is this knowledge? Can one really rely upon this? Have I been able to understand the object of study fully or not? And keep in mind the example with which I began in the morning. Do I really understand the Buddhist monks? Do I really understand the action they carried out? How do I understand it? The third is universal human values. For example, all human beings are equal. Yesterday was, what was yesterday? Human Rights Day. Happy Human Rights Day. It was Human Rights Day. A great occasion. And what is that you learn on the Human Rights Day? That these rights, human rights, are independent of all other rights. These are the rights which come to us by virtue of being human. They are different from the rights of the civilians. They are different from the fundamental rights and the duties. These are the rights which come to us as human beings. For example, no one should be starved to death. No one should be tortured to death. No human being should go hungry. All human beings are equal. And one thing which we learn on Human Rights Day is to create a system which is non-hierarchical. A system which is just. These are universal human values. And in the past, these universal human values have often been flouted. They have often been flouted, whether you take up the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, or you take up the experiments which were conducted by the Australian government at one time, where they thought of improving upon the Australian aborigines by getting their children forcibly adopted in the families of the whites, or the patients suffering from, this happened in America, the patients suffering from sexually transmitted diseases were given placebos rather than medicine because the doctors wanted to see how bad the symptoms would become. All infringement of the universal human value. And one thing which I would like to add here, because some of you might be pursuing researches on the contemporary world. In this contemporary world, which is often called the post-development world, we are not only concerned with the rights of the human beings, we are also concerned with the rights of plants, rights of animals, rights of rivers, rights of mountains, rights of minerals, rights of hills, rights of everything, rights of stones. Because if they disappear, we will also disappear. So today our concept is not of universe, our concept is of, what is it called? Pluriverse. 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 That the world has many words in it. The word of animal, the word of plants. Why, for instance, let me ask you, why the Delhi government thought of taking the sparrow as the state bird? Because sparrows are disappearing. And so we need to rehabilitate them. We need to help them survive. So these are the words where there are many other words. And in fact, and this is a very, very important issue. Today, the world is not anthropocentric. Man is the master of the universe, The entire nature has to be domesticated because nature is ruthless. No. Today, we have moved from anthropocentrism to what is called biocentrism. What is called omnicentrism. Omnicentrism is a better idea. Omni means all. All are at the center. When all are at the center, center disappears. When all are at the center, disappears. And therefore, you have to be careful about your environment. These are universal values. And then there are research values. These questions are called axiological questions. AXIO. Axiological questions. These are the philosophical questions dealing with what is right, what is not right, what is correct and what is not correct. Okay. Now, number 4 is the language, the academic words. One thing which I am telling you as a senior person in the discipline, the ideas have to be communicated in each discipline in a particular language. We call it sometimes jargons, sometimes use the word academic patois. P-A-T-O-I-S, academic patois. Patois means the academic language in which I am trying to communicate the idea. Right from 10 o'clock when I started this lecture to now, I am using a language which is very different from the common language. The words I am using, and I am understanding that you are able to comprehend the meaning of these words. Academic language. And each discipline has its own language. So, for example, an economist would use the term fiscal policy. A political scientist would use the word referendum. A sociologist would use the word social structure. Okay, these are terms which are a part of their discipline, and each of one has to understand the meaning of these terms and use them. And lastly is how you are going to collect the information. Now see, I will begin with an example first, and then I will lay before you the entire the domain of the method. Suppose I want to, and this is my favorite example. If I want to know why are you here, there are people from my department, I can recognize them, at least 3 of them I can see. There are people from other departments whom I have taught at different levels, in different forums, and I am very, very conscious of the fact that they should not think that I am repeating what I have done earlier. Okay? I want to know why are you here? Why are you here? Why are you attending this course? Okay, what will I do? First of all, I will have my own imagination. You are attending this course because you want to learn more about research methods. Okay? And so you are here. But you may also be here just because you want respite from your routine. Everyday routine, doing the same thing. Come here, very, very elegant place to work, have good food, good sun, non-polluting environments, and beautiful place to work with, it may be. But this is my understanding. If I want to know why you are here, I will have to ask you. Isn't it? Suppose, let us assume, I don't mind my example. Even if you mind, I don't bother. Suppose, let me assume, I am in a group of chimpanzees. Okay? And I want to know why these chimpanzees are living in Gombe Stream National Park. Troops and troops of chimpanzees. Okay. Surely, I want to know why they are here. Okay. I won't be able to ask these chimpanzees. I can't interview chimpanzees the way in which I can interview human beings. My understanding of chimpanzees would be completely an externalistic understanding. I am imagining that this is what they may be thinking. You never know. You never know. Do chimpanzees have a language? Some people say yes, of course, they have a language which is called meta-language. They are able to communicate. But do I understand the language? No, not at all. I don't understand. I only see these chimpanzees moving from one place to the other place. Similarly, suppose I am working on cows and horses and donkeys and frogs. Okay? I am basing myself completely on an observationalist rather than a study in which I am combining observation with what is called interview. Suppose, go back to the example. I want to know, why are you here? I ask you, and you give me the reason. The reason you give now, if I ask you, that reason would be very different from the reason you give me when I speak to you separately, rather than in a part, and rather than as a part of this group. We make a distinction between group interview and one-on-one interview. You know, you will have your validatory function one of these days, and I'm sure the coordinators are going to ask you, how good was the program? And I'm sure all of you will say, very good. You will say, wonderful. And you will find degrees in other things. I remember in Hyderabad, everyone came. So I went to deliver the validatory letters, and everyone came and said, oh, very good. All the lectures were very good. Tremendous learning we had. I know there are very, very boring, but I also know there are awful stuffs. I know it. I'm an insider. You can't motivate me, you can't motivate me. They all said very good, very good. And then said, yes, food was not so good. One person said, well, we did not get second helping, so we thought of filling our plate to the brim. Because the second time food was not available. One person said that 21 days I am here, my bed sheet was not changed even once. I sleep on the same bed sheet. But every part was very good. And when my turn came, I said, no, I can't believe you are wrong. Because it is simply not possible. Some participants said, yes, you are right, later on. But then I asked them, then why did you in the first instance say it was very good? I'll tell you the answer. The answer was given in a group situation. A group has its own identity. A group has what is called intersubjectivity. And if someone says, all the lectures were good, others would not. Yeah. And when the same person is asked again, another kind of interview, one-on-one interview, the answer would be different. I am not satisfied either with the first answer or with the second answer. I am not satisfied. Why I am not satisfied? I tell you. Because I think you are always hiding. Human beings are very complex beings. Goffman used to say, Arvind Goffman used to say that always keep in mind the distinction between what people say and what they do. I would make it further complicated by telling you there's a difference between what people think, what they say, what they do, and finally what they think they ought to have done. Often people say, oh, this man came and I said all this, okay, and they say, I should have said this also, which I did not say. What ought to be done? Ought to be done. 4 levels is very difficult. Very, very difficult. Goffman used to say, very difficult to get inside the heads of the people. Very, very mysterious kind of thing. I don't know what you're thinking right now. I don't know. You are in the class, physically you are in the class, you are writing, but you may be thinking about the food which is going to be served after some time. Or some of you might be thinking about that when I left the geyser on and I came to attend the class, I don't know what would happen to the geyser. You know, these kinds of things, thoughts are fleeting and coming to your mind. I am not satisfied with either of these, so I adopt the third strategy, which is I become a member of your group. I become a member of your group. So I also become a participant. Alright. And the 2 stances I have. Number 1. You know that I'm attending the class with you, but my aim is to study this group. It is called overt research. Overt means public. Overt research. You know that the person who is in your midst is in fact studying you. But it could be the other thing also. You do not know that you are going to study. And I am a part of your group. Right? This is called covert research. Covert research. Many people have adopted the strategy of covert research for studying phenomena which otherwise are not accessible for any kind of overt research or any interview-based research. For example, tabooed behavior, like homosexuality, for instance. Episodes of embezzlement. Certain institutions, like example, psychiatric clinics. Earlier they were called mental asylums. Or prisons. If you want to study a psychiatric clinic, then the best way is to be admitted as a mentally sick person, if you want to understand it from the science. Otherwise, you will only get what's called censored picture. What the doctors tell you. Howard Becker wrote a paper, fascinating paper he wrote. It was titled, Whose Side Are You On? That was the title of the paper. Whose side are you on? From whose perspective you are looking at it. So now, which procedures do I have to know about you? One procedure I have is to observe you. And observation is the key technique. It cuts across all sciences. Once again, I am reminded of Harry Walcott. Once Harry Walcott, he writes it, he was traveling in a transatlantic flight, and a seatmate means person sitting next to you. Is secret effectively a physicist? So these two started talking. So he asked the physicist, what do you work on? The physicist said, well, I work on ozone layer. He said, how do you work on ozone layer? He said, we begin with observational data. The answer was very comforting. You begin with the observational data. What you see. How do you know that climate is changing? Look at the weather changes. Look at the erratic summer. Look at the erratic rain. Look at the flooding. Look at the melting of the glacier, from which you infer. This is often called indirect observation. In social sciences, it is often called archaeology of human behavior. How? Suppose the class ends and this whiteboard is all full with something written on it. Anyone would come, would say, a class took place here on the basis of what is being seen here. Simple thing, you go to a hotel, you go to a room and you see the dressing table having a bindi stuck to one part. You can immediately say some women came and stayed here. And women have this habit of, because I live in a female-dominated house, so they have the habit of sticking these bindis. Okay, and something you can infer. You can infer from what is there. So I will make use of two procedures of data collection. I will observe, and number two, I will ask you questions. But when I am studying monkeys, when I am studying rocks, when I am studying frogs, when I am studying minerals, I will observe, but will not ask them questions. So observation remains the common denominator. An interview, which is the name, the generic name given for asking questions, which has a long continuum. Interview includes pleasant conversations on one hand and structured interviews on the other. When you ask questions, you seek verbal data from people, verbal response. So observation and interview become the basic procedures of data collection. But then I want to get inside your mind. I don't know whether you are pessimistic or you are optimistic. I do not know whether you are extrovert or you are introvert. I do not know whether you have the fortitude to withstand problem or you would succumb to the problem. I do not know. So what I do is, I give you certain cards on which some pictures are drawn. Okay? And these cards are given to you, or cards are displayed before you. You are supposed to develop a story looking at these cards. Or I make some kind of diagrams on some piece of paper, give it to you to interpret. Or the ink blots. You may have seen this. Those of you who have appeared for various competitive examinations, like for example, entry to the jobs in military, they take a piece of paper, put some ink drops, fold it, and design comes up. The design is given to you. You have to write about it. Okay. I don't have time to ask you questions. I write all these questions and send these questions to you by mail or now by email for you to write the answers to these questions and send these replies back to me. You have already understood the distinction between technique, method, and tool. Questionnaire is a tool. The Rorschach's test, the thematic perception test, I just spoke, projective tests as they are called, they are tools. The tools are given to you. Alright. Technique is the basic procedure of data collection. The word method is a little problematic.
the word method. There's no problem with the word technique. The word method is a little problematic because the word method is multi-meaning. It is, we use the word, it is polysemic. Method is polysemic. Poly means many and semic means having meaning. And there are 4 meanings of method we are able to detect in literature. Number 1, the first is when 2 techniques are combined to produce an intensive study or an intensive account of a phenomenon. It is called method. Example, case study method, genealogical method, pedigree method. How do we prepare the case study? We ask questions, we conduct observation. So, case study method, genealogical method. Number 2, the second meaning. Method refers to retrieval of data. Retrieval of data. Now here, distinction is made between information and data. Information refers to vast corpus of knowledge, and data refers to, or data is plural, or data refer to, or you can also say data refers to what is taken out from the vast body of information. For example, an archive is having loads and loads of information, loads and loads of files dealing with a variety of things. The researcher will cull out the information he or she needs for his or her purpose. Archaeologists, they go to a site where there are hundreds and thousands of these stone implements are lying. You take out the things which you study. Retrieval of data. It is here we use the term historical method, archaeological method. The second meaning. Third is method refers to the procedure of moving from particular to general. Particular to general. From a particular example to a generalization. This is here we use the term comparative method. Comparative method, when you compare different situations to arrive at the similarities and the differences. And the last meaning of the term method is the theoretical procedure with which you analyze the information. The theoretical way of analyzing it. It could be hermeneutic method, structural method, functional method, Marxist method, feminist method, okay, postmodern method, evolutionary method. There's no end to this. In fact, it's a forest of the method. So there is the theoretical approach. So you have now 4 meanings to the term method. And which one is used in a particular context will become clear from the usage. We speak of in research, and I am now speaking to you not as a social researcher, I am speaking to you as a researcher in general. And what I am going to do now, in whatever time I have at my disposal, although these things require far lengthier deliberation of what I am able to do. The methods can be easily divided into 4 categories. And this is what I am presenting before you. This is something which would be applicable to research in general. 4 methods. And you can link it up with the discipline from which you come. Suppose you come from economics. Your data will come in the form of census reports, National Sample Survey Organization reports, Survey of Indian Industries,